I have not been successful at replicating what we accomplished at Mercedes-Benz of Wilsonville across our entire group. We're getting better. We don't just have one store that's perfected it. Now we have a few. I like to say it's like fighting gravity to try to bring what we're trying to do to all of our dealerships.
Today, I'm excited to speak with Jeff Swickard, dealer principal of Swickard Automotive, a 40 rooftop auto group that's taking a radical approach to hospitality and getting inspiration from an unlikely source, his years as a tech founder and CEO. A big thank you to our sponsors for making today's episode possible, Edmunds, Draver, and OpenLane. And now, let's get into the show.
Jeff Swickard on the CDG podcast. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you.
Nice to have you on. What are you up to on this fine day in sunny California? It looked like you were falling out of heaven, as Cole was mentioning in the prior shot before we moved your background.
Well, I am actually in a Lexus dealer today, which is in the car business is almost the closest to heaven. So I'm here in Thousand Oaks and visiting our dealership here. So, but thrilled to be on your podcast today.
It's great to have you on. What's it like? What's it like running a Lexus dealership nowadays? How's supply?
I mean, supply is limited, but I would say that Toyota and Lexus has been really disciplined with their manufacturing. And so, I mean, it's always, as a dealer, we always want to regain our market share. We want to regain our rightful spot on a stack ranker. So it's hard to do that when you have limited inventory. There's really no chance to pull ahead, if you will. But the profitability for brands that have limited supply is significantly better than those that have kind of an oversupply. So I think Lexus and Toyota has done a terrific job of managing their supply, communicating with their dealers, and I think they do which we'll talk about, at some point. I hope, the brand is really interested in providing an exceptional service to the customer or guest. And, their slogan is experience amazing. And I think that, that's something that really resonates with me. So we have 2 Lexus franchises and I've really enjoyed the partnership with them.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us an overview of your group? How many franchises, how many rooftops?
So we represent 54 franchises and I think 39 rooftops.
You think 39,
yeah.
Maybe 40.
We just added one the other day, so my count might be off. So
that's a good problem to have. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, because you had mentioned before the pod, you actually started in the tech industry, not originally from the car business. Can you give us the background there?
Yeah, I mean, so I broadly group telecommunications into tech, so it might be a bridge too far. But I ran a telecommunications company, and I started in the telecommunications business in college, and so after I graduated, I started my own telecommunications company and ran that from for about 13 years, and sold it in 2011. And then when I sold that business, I kind of stumbled upon the car business through a real estate transaction and have now been running these dealerships for the last 9-10 years.
I think one of the learnings for me over the last couple of months here has been just to what extent this industry has been shaped by people not originally from the industry. I spoke with Vince Sheehy a month ago, and he came from the CPG industry. You came from telecommunications, and we've had other examples on the pod, but it's I find it fascinating where I had no idea. When you think car business, you think many family-owned operations, even the bigger groups, really homegrown. So it's pretty interesting just to how much people come from the outside. So tell me about your foray into the business, right? After you sold the telecommunications business, after you exited that, how did you get into the car business? What brought you in here?
Well, I mean, it's a bit of an accident because at the time I wasn't a car enthusiast, or I didn't have any sort of innate desire to be a car dealer. In fact, at the time, as embarrassing as this is, I owned a Tesla, and I had bought it primarily online, and they dropped it off at a parking lot in Austin, Texas, because they couldn't actually deliver the car. But you fast forward, so I accidentally kind of ended up in a real estate transaction that was a car dealership was part of, and the broker, kind of said to me, "Look, don't, you may want to apply for the franchise, but don't worry, in the last, 20 something years, Mercedes, in this case, the franchise was Mercedes-Benz, hasn't, they haven't approved someone who's completely outside the car business. So what will happen is there'll be a right of first refusal, and you'll end up with a really solid tenant on this piece of real estate. And so I filled out the application, and Mercedes-Benz, who is a terrific manufacturer, in my opinion, the CEO in their office, called me and said, listen, I interview all potential dealers, and I want you to come out and meet with us in, New Jersey at the time. And I went out there and met his management team, and, became really excited about the car business. And, they made me a deal. They said, look, you have to move to this location. It's a gentleman's agreement, but, I certainly wanted to do that. You need to move there and you need to run it every day. And so I did that, and I became really, really interested in the car business. And it was a fascinating experience for me in many regards. And then as that dealership became more and more successful, we just continued to grow our partnerships with other manufacturers. And now today we own, significantly more.
So the 40 rooftops you mentioned, was that all done in the last 10 years?
Yes. It's actually done, probably most of them were done in probably the last 5 years. Gosh, I think, we received 6 or 7 open points from manufacturers or relocations too. So, we were really, really fortunate so far in this business, because I think it's unusual to have so many open points or relocations.
Yeah. Talk to me about that. How did you manage to do that? Especially given you're in pretty competitive markets. How'd you get open points?
I think that, each scenario is different. But we have, I think we really outperformed at that first dealership, and we really made a mark, and we really did things remarkably different because we didn't know what the past looked like, right? So we only knew what we wanted to accomplish at that point.
You came with a blank slate.
A blank slate. And I think, I was a car buyer long before I was a car dealer. So, I really came with the perspective of the buyer, not the dealer. And, and I would tell you, I think for us at that location, we found a niche, we found an opportunity there that was unique. And in fact, that store today, is in a suburb of Portland, Oregon. It shouldn't be, anything exceptional. And it's regularly ranked number 1 in the nation for the overall dealer performance from Mercedes-Benz. So, we learned a lot, we experienced a lot, and, the other manufacturers noticed and, wanted us part of their network. And, so when there were opportunities, either the manufacturer helped us or, brokers helped us to grow pretty quickly. And we were lucky. We had some great sellers along the way that were very responsible and helpful for us.
So a couple of things that I want to understand. First of all, you said you did things very differently as you came in with the perspective of the buyer, not a dealer. How did that actually manifest? Like, what did you do differently? What were the specifics?
Well, I think philosophically, we have this desire to be a hospitality type company that just happens to be in the car business, right? We want to be the leaders of the ultra premium retail automotive industry. We want to be able to provide the highest level of care for our customers or our guests. We want, if you take the Lexus example of Experience Amazing, we want those customers to leave feeling amazed. We want them to do that. And it's challenging, right? Because for the most part, when you're dealing with a premium brand, the customers have high expectations. And so in order to, to make that experience memorable, you have to go way above those expectations and you have to be extraordinarily creative. And I think we were really good at that. I think we made it our mission to provide really, really high level, high touch hospitality experiences for our guests and our customers. And they just responded with lots of, just the rewards were, endless. Our service department, grew from 1,400 hours to 8,000 hours. We sold 30, we sold 30 cars at the time when I acquired the dealership. My last month as the GM, we sold just under, I think, 400 cars. I mean, it was an extraordinary, and I'm talking about total volume, but it was just an extraordinary experience to be part of. And many of the people that were there when we bought the dealership stayed, but we just changed the mission. We changed the style of the dealership. We changed the message. We changed the way we treated people. We examined every touch point to figure out how can we provide a, truly exceptional customer experience.
When you say we, when you say we, right? You came in not an industry guy. So who was we? Like, who was that team that helped you accomplish this?
I mean, the dealership, the team. I mean, from the sales professionals, the sales management, the service management, everybody. I mean, we just said, I lucked out because I was able to find people that shared that desire. And they, things that, you asked for specifics. One of the things that I feel really strongly is that customers shouldn't have, in a service drive, customers shouldn't have to work around our operational challenges. In other words, customers should just bring their cars in whenever they want. We should have open service drives at every dealership. If you're our customer, you should bring your car when you need to. So I hired a service manager that believed in that philosophy. So the first thing I asked him is, how do we move from these appointments, these reservations, to an open service drive where customers tell us when they want to come in, not we tell them when to come in. Our operational challenges should be invisible to our customer. And so that's an example, so in my case, I went out and interviewed a bunch of service managers. I found a fellow named Mike Rossi, who's still with the company today, runs our fixed operations team. And I said, look, my goal is to find a way for customers to bring their cars in whenever they want. So if 100 people want to bring them in at Monday morning at 8 a.m., we have to figure it out. I mean, they build churches for Easter Sunday. I mean, can we not figure out a way to accommodate all of our customers' interests in terms of timing? And then once they got there, we had to do things exceptional and expensive. I mean, we had to have really high quality loaner cars. We had to put people, they're coming out of an AMG Mercedes. We wanted them in an AMG Mercedes. We wanted to do everything in our power to make that customer feel like this experience was different than anything they've ever done before.
Just very, very tactical questions, but what does your loaner fleet look like? Like, I'm curious, how many do you carry? And really what I'm getting at here is, how have your margins trended since implementing lots of these things? That's kind of really where I'm heading.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, at that dealership, I mean, I don't know the exact loaner fleet anymore, but I mean, it was in excess of 200 cars. And our attitude was, look, if you have an aging, vehicle that you want, in the case of the Mercedes, which is the store I started at, right? If you have an aging car and you want to bring it in for oil change, but you want to go to the beach for the weekend, we're going to give you a convertible and you could take it to the beach. You want to take your family to Palm Springs from Portland and put 1,100 miles on our car? That's fine. Take your family and we'll give you an SUV to go in. I mean, we really perfected, whatever the question was, the answer was yes. And we wanted to even go beyond that. So our loaner fleet, so the effect on the economics was significant because a 200 vehicle loaner fleet with AMG and convertibles and all these expensive cars, was a drag on our profitability. I would argue that I'm probably not as profitable as some other dealers, but because of some of these decisions we made at Wilsonville, Mercedes-Benz of Wilsonville. But one of the benefits is our service department is extraordinarily busy and it's extraordinarily profitable. So, we seem to think that, while we have to look down at our expenses and look at this giant loaner expense and the manufacturer continues to try to wean us off of loaners, because it is a significant burden on your financial statement. But in some ways, it's a speculative investment. You put the loaners in hopes that you'll get customers that maybe wouldn't have come with you before. I mean, Mercedes-Benz of Wilsonville in the Portland market is the most inconvenient store to get to. It's pretty much 30 minutes the wrong way. But yet it sells, it sells more than the other two dealerships combined. Its service department is extraordinarily busy, and it's a really profitable dealership.
This episode is brought to you by Edmunds. In today's automotive landscape, car buyers invest more time than ever in researching, considering, and comparing options. But for dealers, the challenge lies in pinpointing the audience ready to make a purchase. Enter Premier by Edmunds. Premier offers dealers a groundbreaking way to connect with in-market car shoppers precisely when, where, and how they prefer. With over 20 million monthly visits, Edmunds.com is the go-to destination for buyers seeking market insights, expert advice, and budget tools to make informed decisions. These shoppers aren't just informed, they're laser focused on the exact car they want. Now, it's your chance to make that connection. Through Edmunds Premier, dealers gain access to this highly coveted audience. Simply list your new and used inventory on Edmunds and watch as qualified in-market traffic flows directly to your vehicle detail pages on your website. Don't miss out on this opportunity to elevate your dealership's visibility and sales performance. You can sign up for Premier today at edmunds.com/CDG. Again, visit edmunds.com/CDG or click the link in the show notes below.
So let me play devil's advocate now, right? Like the biggest constraint for 11 out of 10 dealers in the service department is technicians. So you're clearly filling up the funnel and you're delivering a great customer experience. But how are you solving for that? Like you can bring all the customers in the world, but can you service them? Do you have the, manpower to actually deliver that service?
Well, I think that's a really fair question. So let me tell you, I'm giving you one example of Mercedes-Benz in Wilsonville. We have not been able to successfully replicate that culture, that whole environment across all of our group. That is the challenge that I face today. So, I can brag about the one dealership that we started in because that was the context of the question was where did we start? But I have been unsuccessful at bringing that vision, that just mission to that duty, if you will, to all of our franchises in a short period of time. So, because we have 40 different cultures, 40 different leadership styles. We're trying our best through training and some other things we can talk about. But at the end of the day, I have not been successful at replicating what we accomplished at Mercedes-Benz of Wilsonville across our entire group. We're getting better. We don't just have one store that's perfected it. Now we have a few, but it is not, I like to say it's like fighting gravity to try to bring what we're trying to do to all of our dealerships.
Is it just been a challenge with fast growth? Is it you not being physically there? Like, or is it the wrong people? Like, what's the challenge for you at the scale that you've grown? It's obviously very, very quickly. What's been the biggest challenge with kind of scaling that experience that you were able to deliver at one store in such a boutique way?
Yeah, that's a fair way of describing it. The dealership's a 90,000 square foot dealership, so it doesn't feel like, boutique-y. But I will tell you that you asked about technicians. Now I'd like to answer that if you want it, because I just remembered your original question. Sorry. So
I want it all, Jeff. I want it all.
So technicians it was tricky because you're 100% right. When we bought Mercedes-Benz in Wilsonville, and we don't need to keep focusing on that one dealership, there was a board. And the board was where technicians put their name because there wasn't enough work so they would prioritize themselves through like a whiteboard because we had too many technicians and not enough work. And I didn't understand the concept of flat rate. So in the state of Oregon, they don't get minimum wage. They don't get anything. They come in, there's no work, they don't get paid, right? So, in state of California, it's much more complicated. They probably get paid more not to work than to work. But in the state of, Oregon, it was a flat rate, it was a flat rate environment. I was learning about it. And so, I felt like I was disappointing them. I felt like I let them down, that I couldn't deliver the work for them. And so, at first I just had to throttle up the work just to keep up with the technicians that were there. And we had really, really high quality technicians. So, but over time, people are smart, technicians are smart, and customers are smart. And they are experts at knowing whether you care or not. And when the technicians know you care, they will tell their friends and family, and they will come to work for you. So when we were done, we didn't have any room available for inbound technicians. People wanting to apply for work, all of our bays were full. And that was a really good place to be. So then we opened up an alternate facility and we filled that up. And today, I don't know what Wilsonville's technician, count looks like, but I will tell you that the better you treat people, whether it's customers or employees, they're experts at knowing whether you care or you don't, and they will come. Customers, technicians, whoever. And so when there's a recruitment problem, it typically means that our culture is not strong enough to pull the people in. And that's a problem that's my responsibility. I have to go in and fix the culture in order to attract the people at all levels and customers, because customers are experts at knowing whether your people are happy or not.
I love that. That's super well said. You are basically, you've taken a longer term approach. You're thinking like long time horizon. Net, I'm investing more in my business. It's going to attract more talent. I can service more customers. Everybody wins. So you mentioned that you've had the challenge of kind of scaling that culture, but how do you port this type of mentality to value brands? Like, you're clearly a customer first type of leader, and you put you put money, real money behind it, obviously. But how do you then port that to value brands where your margins are not as high and maybe you're working with some more constraints? How do you do that?
I mean, I think it's a challenge for sure, but I think here at the end of the day, I feel like no matter what vehicle that a customer buys from us, or even comes visits us, or goes through our service drives, we serve almost 1 million customers, unique customers a year. And if I get in the game of trying to, not treat them, everyone with the same level of care and interest, then I shouldn't be in this business. I shouldn't own brands that I cannot support the customers at the level in which our company has promised. So, do we today? No. I mean, we absolutely have dealerships that are not providing this level of service. I'm embarrassed. I mean, I want to do better. But if we're not going to partner with a brand that we can't provide this level of service for. I mean, it just doesn't work. And whether you're we have a GMC store in a suburb of Anchorage, Alaska, and we're working on hospitality there. And I will tell you, it's one of our best kind of turnaround stories from a hospitality perspective. And so, it's a small store, small volume. You can't just overlay a ton of personnel to try to have a super high touch environment. So what do you have to do? We have to make sure that everyone we hire has that innate interest in wanting to take care of other people. They have to wake up in the morning and say, I want to do something nice for someone today. Or I just, what it's like. I mean, when you deal with people, I mean, I go to Jamba Juice. I mean, if they can find people that are that perky, to scream out my Jamba Juice order, like, how in the world can I not hire those people that I pay, 4 or 5 times that to do the same things? I mean, they need to be, as perky as the person at Jamba Juice, and, as fast as FedEx, and as caring as, pick a brand. I oftentimes relate our business to hotels and to, the Las Vegas Strip. And I mean, if you talk to our GMs, they'll laugh. And I will tell you, in our group of franchises, we have, and no offense to these brands, we have some golden nuggets that we need to convert to the Wynn, or pick your favorite, hotel on the Strip. I mean, I always use the Wynn because it's, I'm just, I feel like they have stood the test of time for hospitality. But, there are some brands along that Strip that don't share that hospitality, mission. And so we're trying to take some golden nuggets and some flamingos and turn them into the Wynn. And that's a journey. And I've kind of given myself 5 years to do it, and I'm on 1.5 years.
Yeah. You're trying to build a hospitality brand that happens to sell cars, and I love that. Tell me, by the way, quick sidebar, what's like what are the deals like in Alaska? I haven't heard that one before. So you mentioned you own a dealership there. I'm sure people's ears are ringing. Oh, Alaska, maybe I can find a deal up there. Tell me about that. What do we got up there?
I mean, Alaska's turned out to be a terrific market, and we bought a couple stores that were kind of probably a little edgy. And so we've had to turn that a little bit. But we have had, we've had a great experience in Alaska. We also have stores in Hawaii. So our employees, our traveling employees get to go to Alaska and Hawaii. But I think, it's a great market where you have really loyal customers, loyal people. There's a small employee base, so sometimes it's a little harder to get, to attract all the people you need. But I mean, I think it's a terrific market. And I think that folks go through their cars faster there, so their trucks. It's a strong truck market for us. We own a GM group in there, so Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Cadillac. And and then we own some luxury brands: Mercedes, Porsche, Audi, Volkswagen. So it's I think it's a terrific market.
Jeff, as someone that's not from the industry originally, if you, I mean, now 40 rooftops later, I would say you're more in the industry than most people. But nonetheless, if you just could roam freely, there were no fires to put out, and you could just follow your curiosity, what department do you go to? Fixed ops, variable ops, used, new? Where do you go?
I go to the service department.
Service department. And why is that? Is it like, what's the reason for that?
I think it's easier to surprise customers with amazing service. Like, I think on the sales side, they just expect you to be nice and everything because you want to sell the car, right? But in the service department, I mean, you can do really amazing things for people. You can really surprise them. You can really provide a really high level of service. And, like, there's a whole greeting process. I mean, that whole warm welcome coming into the drive. I mean, it reminds me kind of a hotel valet, area. I feel like it's just, you can really turn it into something high touch and something exceptional. And it's easier for me to provide. It's easier for me to, and then I also like at our large service departments, the energy of all the cars coming and going and people coming and going. I love the energy of that. So I guess I would gravitate to the service department.
Mm-hmm. And are you like financial first? Like, does your head think, okay, service, absorption, profitability, like this is where I should be focusing? Or are you more, kind of right brain, like you would just said, just like it's strictly like the energy, like I love that. I can really operationalize this in the way I want as a creative. Like, what's the, what type of person are you?
I'm super emotional. So I have a hard time focusing on the financials. I mean, and so I need to do a better job at running more profitable dealerships. So, because there's a lot of money there that I don't chase down. I'm not a good, they call me the gross prevention manager in the sales area.
Oh my God.
Because I will just make a deal with anybody. I just get so excited to sell something, to do something, that I'm called the gross prevention manager. So, I mean, they don't really like me getting involved in deals. I'm not a good closer. I mean, I'm just not good at that stuff. But I have a terrific CFO that's been with me from almost day one, who guides me and, pushes me. Yeah. So I have a really good partner in that regard. And I've got some really amazing, car folks that I've learned that I need to hire. So I think, but if you talk to any of the general managers, I mean, I'm getting better at, because the market's getting tougher, right? I mean, it's not, my friend told me the other day, he feels like Santa, for a while, Santa came like every day. And, now Santa's not coming anymore. So we're going to have to get more creative. So, but I kind of like that. I mean, environment. I like it, more challenging environment. I'm really, and I'm very excited about some of the brands that we have and the direction that they're going. I think some of these manufacturers have some really good ideas. So I'm really excited about, the future of this business. And so, but I do think I have to lean in with what, drives me, which is this hospitality. I mean, I'm giving myself 5 years to do this. And, I started, I have a whole plan together, and I'm doing the best I can. But I mean, I'm not accomplishing it everywhere. And I think that, I'd say probably 80% of our dealerships, maybe even 90% haven't mastered it yet.
By the way, you mentioned the gross prevention manager. I have a friend who's he's a builder, and everything he does, like, he overinvests. It's kind of funny. So we all make fun of him because, like, even you go to his house and, like, he spends so much on, on the little details. But he always says, like, this is all these investments I make, like, many of them are unprofitable, right? That extra molding or whatever, like, that's not adding value, but he cares so much about the detail. And again, you could say that adds to the overall product, but it's a similar thing, right? He's very creative, and he needs those details to kind of match his personality. I mean,
I don't know that I could run a profitable business on my own. Like, I'm trying to get it. I mean, the GMs will tell you, I've definitely turned, to focus more on, profitability and some of the metrics. But I mean, like, my attitude in service when I ran Mercedes-Benz Wilsonville was, look, if you're not happy with it, don't pay for it. It's okay. And the service manager would be like, oh no, Jeff, you can't write this much off in policy, and you can't do these things, like, but I mean, if someone wasn't happy, I just said, don't pay us. It's okay. And if you want to take advantage of us, I mean, there's a small number of people that will do that, but most people, I mean, we live in this, this economy of goodwill, right? So if you deposit a bunch of goodwill, you may get it back. And so like, I feel like that's where we need to be in this business. We need to be establishing and building that bank of goodwill.
This episode is brought to you by Draver. Are you looking for a faster way to move vehicles and impress your customers? Meet Draver, the smarter way to manage your logistics. With access to over 20,000 contract drivers across the country, Draver moves vehicles 4 times faster than traditional methods. From valet service to pickup and delivery, vehicle repositioning, and auction moves, Draver has you covered. Enjoy peace of mind with insurance coverage and their expert support team at every step. And with the Draver Now app, testing out Draver's services is simple. Visit Draver.com or click the link in the show notes below to download the app today, request a move, and experience how Draver can transform your logistics.
Let's transition to goodwill, not to variable ops. Talk to me a little bit about used and new car sales, right? I mean, let's start with new, right? So what is your, you mentioned that you're very excited about certain brands. What brands are you very excited about?
Well, I'm excited about a variety of brands, but I mean, one of the things that, and I'm not, so I'm kind of excited about JLR's messaging around hospitality. And I mean, I don't know that they characterize it exactly as hospitality, but, they're really going in trying to provide a really high level of service to their customer and to our mutual customer. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about all the things that they're doing in dealership to provide kind of these memorable experiences. And I went to a recent meeting with the JLR executives and a group of dealers, and we learned about about new ways to provide what I don't know if you've read that book, Unreasonable Hospitality, but have you read that book or heard of it?
I haven't read it, but I have heard it's super well recommended.
Yeah, it's terrific. And so that whole message about unreasonable hospitality really resonated with me. So I left really energized, excited about what they're doing. I also think their cars are, the design and their product is just really exceptional. So I've been enjoying that. I'm glad that Mercedes has, kind of turned the corner, and it looks like might be, more interest in volume again. So I think we're going to be able to grow more with Mercedes with higher volumes. I feel like, Toyota, Lexus. I mean, Lexus is just still 100% focused on, their original covenant in terms of how they treat their guests, and how they'd like us to treat the guests, and, how they support us, and, is really exceptional. So Toyota, Lexus, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's just a bunch that I'm excited about. I mean, I even, I'm not a Ford dealer. Some of the brands that have, I shouldn't pick on Ford because I don't really know, but, some of the brands that have, tough reputations with dealers, I'm just not a franchisee. So, I mean, if I had a bad relationship with the manufacturer, I would just sell my dealership. Like, I don't want to fight.
Yeah, I mean, I see you have so many Highline brands. I mean, I don't think I've seen another dealer with so many Mercedes points. So you definitely.
Well, there's a few that have more.
Yeah, I'm sure. But you have many. Just like I said, lots of Highline. So the hospitality direction makes total sense. And by the way, I will say that it seems as Ford has been turning a leaf. The last 2.5 years have been pretty brutal for dealers. But I also have to give credit where credit's due, that they have been listening more to the consumer and to dealer, whether by being forced to, or by, just their desire. They have been. You can just see with the changes they've made. So, shout out to Ford dealers for coming around.
Well, I wasn't picking on Ford. I'm not a Ford dealer. So I was a Ford dealer for a short period of time, and I had a fine experience. So but I mean, you do hear about some manufacturers that are tough on their dealers. And I think that, the partnership is so important that, I think it's hard to do all the things and stay motivated if that relationship is not strong.
Yeah. So given, I'm going to, go on a hunch here, but you have all these new brands, right? Where very profitable service. I would say higher profitability, new car margins versus the value brands. Again, this is just like, I'm generalizing. How do you think about used, right? What's your strategy in used? Do you consider yourself, a top 10% used car dealer? What's your take?
Well, I mean, I think as a group, we have, missed a lot of used car opportunities. I think that we have been relatively unsuccessful at growing our volume of used to the level that we want. However, I will tell you that we rely on our used car. I mean, I think we're probably just above 1-to-1. So we do sell slightly more used than new, which I think is unusual given some of our volume brands like Toyota. Typically, Toyota dealers sell more new than used. So we're still over 1-to-1. So I think some people looking from the outside would think that we're really successful in terms of used, but I think it's a tough market. I think you have some really interesting, competitors that make things, challenging as a franchise dealer, like CarMax. I mean, CarMax, in my opinion, is like the best in the nation for, in terms of brand awareness, acquisition, their ability to acquire, like, 80-90% of the vehicles that they sell are acquired themselves. So, I mean, you think about it. I mean, I don't know of many franchise dealers that are getting 80-90% trade-ins. So you start thinking about what does that competitive landscape look like? But then the opportunity size, I don't hold me these numbers because I'm just talking to you unprepared. But I think that
okay.
You have, what do they sell? Does the US sell 39 million used cars a year? Something like that. So, more than double the new cars. And 13 million of those are sold by franchise dealers. Again, don't hold me to these numbers. I just am going totally by memory. But so, a third of the used cars are being sold by franchise dealers. So you think of the opportunity that exists in used cars in that used car segment. And then you look at, okay, where are customers choosing to buy their used cars? Right? Are they choosing to buy their cars, online at something like Carvana, who claims that they have these insane PVRs that, that I've never seen at any of my dealerships. 3, 4, 5, 6 times what we're used to at our dealerships. Carvana is reporting as their, average PVR. So, you're looking at, and they own the auction. So I don't know if they're just sourcing it for less. I don't know enough about their business to know, what it is, but you start looking and you start overlaying these online retailers, that there's less of, but certainly, still a swath of vehicles are being sold by them, and then you look at these companies that have done, a terrific job, I would, CarMax, right, at selling, volume. And then what are the, franchise car dealers doing? We have the CPO differentiator, and then, how we acquire cars, how we dispose of, dispose of those cars that we don't sell. How fast do you do it? How much do you recon the cars? It's a whole ecosystem. How do you market to customers? How many sites do customers visit before they come to us? We have changed a lot in the used car business. So we have centralized our used car operations in a way to kind of better use tech. But the dealership personnel doesn't love it. The dealers, so we're fighting, it's better now, but we fought with the dealership folks that want to have a used car manager. They want to buy locally. They want to, come up with their own pricing. They want to do everything by instinct and gut. It's not the same as, using, machine learning and AI and all these suppliers that can help us that are experts in their field. So, everything from...
Can you be more specific on that? Can you be more specific when you say you've centralized, you're using this tech, suppliers, take us one step deeper?
Yeah. So, we have, we hired, former, used car buyer of 20 something years from CarMax, and they manage a team in Summerlin, Nevada, at our company headquarters, and we buy vehicles for our dealerships, and we put them on an internal auction. Our dealerships buy from them. So we have, almost all, if not all, of the dealerships no longer buy from auction sites or auctions, in-person auctions at all. So they rely on trades that they control at the dealership, street purchases that they control the pricing on, and then an internal auction. Or in some of the larger volume dealerships, we have a program where we supply those cars. So we have centralized buying. So start there on the sourcing side for anything that's not trade-ins or street purchases. And then, the next layer is we have a team that manages all the reconditioning vendors centrally. So we got out of the game of like 25 people coming to
Ooh,
the
that's interesting.
dealerships and, looking at the cars on their own and saying, oh, this car needs this car needs that, giving us an invoice on a napkin and saying like, can you pay us by Venmo? I mean, we got out of all of that and we have centralized reconditioning providers in each one of our markets that's managed centrally. So now we know that, there's no motivation for them to upsell the dealership because we don't pay them more for it. So we have flat pricing on every vehicle that goes through used cars, and we manage it through one vendor centrally. Now that excludes body work. So on the mechanical side, obviously that's managed at the dealership through an internal advisor. And then the photos are done by one photo company in each market. So we send that out to bid based on their performance, and that's managed centrally. So, and then we audit it to make sure that the vehicles have been photographed. How many vehicles haven't been photographed? Why is the time to line? What is that time to line? An acceptable time to line for each dealership for every step of the process. When did the car get there from a transport perspective? So we centralize transport. We have two providers. We don't go with anyone else. So we no longer have to go with all these folks showing up again with the whole same idea, of an invoice on a napkin, pay us in cash, whatever. So we have two suppliers for transport, and all transport is done centrally. So our dealerships know exactly who to call to transport. And we manage the transport providers from when they pick it up to when they deliver it. So all this time to line, effort is, we're starting to look at all these different brackets, if you will, and time to line. We use a software called Rapid Recon, and they've been a terrific supplier, and we've done lots of customization with them. So they manage that process.
Yes. I worked with Rapid for years, and I've spoken with the CEO, and that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you're using them.
Yeah, so we use Rapid Recon, and we've integrated them with some of our own technology. So everything is kind of controlled and curated in that process. So then if the car doesn't sell in a certain amount of time, it goes on our internal auction. If it doesn't get sold on our internal auction, we use a third party called OpenLane. And OpenLane, what OpenLane does for us is allows us to, again, centralize the process. So we're not selling at individual auctions. We're using one company that does our dispositions. And the benefit of doing that for us is that we now can get national exposure. In the past, we would send it to the local auctions. And even though they might give us our own lane or whatever, it wasn't enough. We didn't get enough views to drive the value. So when we compared local auctions to OpenLane, our transaction value on the disposition side was favorable. And then it allowed us to dispose of our cars centrally that we did not sell ourselves. So for us, OpenLane is a really effective partner because it allows us to dispose of our vehicles in a uniform way with the highest number of viewers to get the highest value. And when we compared it versus the what we've done before, we're getting higher transaction values through OpenLane versus on our own at local auctions. So that ends our process.
That's cool. OpenLane is a partner of the podcast, so that's awesome to hear. Okay, so basically everything's in a centralized reconditioning center for your used. You have centralized tech.
It's honestly because we operate in all these states, we can't centralize so when I say centralized, I apologize. It's not a centralized reconditioning center because each store does its own reconditioning. But we make decisions on all the suppliers centrally, and we decide on, those suppliers by region.
So Jeff, what haven't I asked you? What should I have asked you?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, we had a really good discussion, and I'm thrilled to be on your podcast. And I think you're, I very much appreciate your continued education for dealers and the whole idea of sharing information, right? I mean, that in and of itself is education. And, when I was on the dealer board for Mercedes-Benz, which is a time I'm really proud of in my career. I would tell the dealer board members were like, they were just incredible operators, incredible. I think best in class dealers. And it was like an MBA. And I often wish that, all of the dealers in our network at the time for Mercedes could be part of those meetings and hear what these incredible dealers were sharing. And so, I mean, we had, I had the dream team when I was on the dealer board with Mercedes-Benz. I mean, dealers that are just exceptionally talented. And so they taught me a lot, and they were very generous with their knowledge. And so I love, what you're doing, because you're able to talk to folks. I wouldn't use me as an example because I'm still learning, but I mean, like, I don't think I should be teaching right now. I think I should be learning, but, to get, the exchange of information and what's working for other people and what's, and to get that knowledge and transfer it, and the generosity that exists with that. I don't know. I just feel like, this, continued education concept in a really easy to listen format, is exceptional. So like, I appreciate what you're doing, and I know that our industry does.
I appreciate you, man. That means a lot. I have a blast doing it, so it's a win-win. But it's definitely been
you're
fun.
Good at it.
Good, man. I really appreciate that. Hey, I hope if you're going to be at NADA, I hope you make it to my NADA party. So that should be a fun time.
I know.
So I hope to see you there.
I got sprung on the podcast, with no notice,
baby.
but at least I got a party invite.
Let's go.
So
go.
I know, and I apologize that I wasn't prepared, but I can tell you that I speak from the heart about, caring really for, making this business better in, particularly from the customer's viewpoint, which translates into, in my opinion, to all of our best interests. So, I came in from technology or telecommunications, and now I'm completely obsessed and in love with this business as it relates to, making the experience better for everyone involved. I haven't done it yet. There's dealers out there that have, but I'm working on it.
I think you're crushing it. Hey, so final question. So I'm going back to the Tesla example, but now that you've been a dealer at 40 rooftops, what do you think?
39. I don't.
Might be 39. Fine. We'll give you that. But what do you think is the advantage that dealerships have? We spoke about where Tesla excels in their experience, and also where they maybe fall back. But I'm curious, where do you think dealers excel in their experience versus Tesla, or like a D2C, type of environment, direct to consumer?
Yeah, I mean, I would not have understood this until I got into this business, right? I mean, I would not have understood what I'm about to tell you if I didn't live it every day. And I'm keep in mind that, maybe I have blinders on, but I mean, what we talked about throughout this podcast is people, right? And when you buy a vehicle, it is, to many cases, I'm going to talk about the sales side first. So, to many people, it's a really special ceremonial level, experience for them. People are changing, and this is not me making this up. This is what it feels like when you work in a dealership. People's lifestyles are changing. They're having a family. Their family's leaving the house. I mean, they're retiring. They were successful in some way, and they want to recognize that in the vehicle they drive. I mean, it is one of the few businesses where there is a really, really significant human interaction when done right. When the customer has fun, when the customer is proud, when the customer feels rich. Like, I often tell people, my job is not to sell a car. My job is just to make someone feel rich, And when they feel rich, you can see it. They never will tell you, but you can see it in them. And that cannot be done online. And I worry about these premium brands that want to go direct to consumer all the time, because I'm worried that they're going to just commoditize what could be really special. Like, when you talk about, I'll just pick Lexus for a moment. When you talk about experience amazing, if you can pull that off, there is nothing that a customer can buy on Amazon or on any site that is going to give that customer that amazement when they see their new vehicle, when they have the pride of ownership, and when they have people around them that are supportive. To me, I don't see the dealer quote unquote model, changing a lot if the customer has a good experience, because the customer will drive it. The customer will go back, and they'll want that interaction. So when you think about Tesla, nobody tells me, oh, when I bought the car, it was extraordinary. I had an extraordinary experience. But if you buy a car, and I'm going to pick on a dealership group now, but if you buy a car from Sewell in Texas, people tell you they have an exceptional experience. They tell you I bought a Sewell. Sometimes they don't even tell you what the brand is of the vehicle. So I think that, when dealers elevate their experience with their customer, their guests, and they do that, I don't believe that any online purchase can compete with that. And if you need evidence of that, go to Las Vegas. You can online gamble. You can sit in front of your computer. I've never done it, but you can sit in front of your computer and you can watch the slots go all day long. But they don't want to be there. They want to smell the casino. They want to be part of the enthusiasm. I mean, you look at those casinos, they're full of people. And why? Because they've created an experience. So from my perspective, I'm betting on people. I'm betting on people. So the other side of it, so you're saying, the other thing is the Tesla model. Like, I don't think there's any better environment for entrepreneurialism and, and kind of a corporate oversight than, I shouldn't use corporate oversight, but, some other term like that, than a good partnership between the manufacturer and the dealer. When the manufacturer and the dealer has perfected that partnership, which is hard to do because sometimes we have competing interests, but when they do that, there's no competing with Tesla. I mean, or any brand like that. So when the partnership is strong between the manufacturer and the dealer, when the dealer and the manufacturer are focused on the customer, I don't think a direct to consumer model is going to be as effective as many people think. And I think when people buy premium products, they want to be treated in a premium way. And it's hard to do that with direct to consumer. I mean, I'll use one last example and I'll let you move on.
No. We could keep going for an hour because I think that I think there's a place for both in the market.
Well, and you might be right, but look at a brand like Louis Vuitton. I mean, how many people do you think want to pay $3,000 for laminated vinyl? I mean, but look around. I mean, it's one of the most powerful brands in the world. I mean, one of the richest people in the world runs essentially a business that sells laminated vinyl. So, but you think about the experience. Women or men buying things from brands like Louis Vuitton don't do it online. They go into the store. Why? They stand in line in inclement weather to get into the store. I was in Germany a few months ago, and there are people, standing in line, waiting to get into a high-end retailer. All of those products are online. They want to touch it, they want to feel it, and they want to feel rich. And if we can do that, and rich might be the wrong term, but if we can give that customer that experience, they will stand in inclement weather to do it.
Jeff Swickard, this has been awesome. Really appreciate you coming on. Super insightful. You're actually a wealth of knowledge, even though I know you're saying you're still learning. I mean, we're all learning, but this has been awesome. So really appreciate you coming on and just sharing all your insights with us.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.